Friends of the Burma Forum and distinguished guests, I'm very pleased to be a part of this educational forum. Unfortunately, I couldn't join you in the Burma discussion this week as I had originally planned. But thanks to Professor Ian Holliday's suggestion, I'm being able to at least email my 2-cent contribution to your discussion about the unfolding process in my country of birth. First, I would like to thank Anu Rishi, Loretta and other organizers who have worked hard to organize this forum. I also wish to thank Gomintai of the BBC Burmese service and Madazin of the Democratic Voice of Burma, both in London, for making my videotaped contribution possible. I was asked to share my assessment of the democratic potential, or lack of it, in General Than Shwe's promised election in Burma this year. I put the word election in quotation marks for the obvious reason being that the regime-sponsored electoral process is not about democratic elections as they exist in democratic or even semi-democratic political contexts. What we are referring to as election in the military rule Burma is a process designed by the military to morph itself from the existing crude and crass military dictatorship with feudal and neo-totalitarian characteristics to the new incarnation which may be aptly described as electoral authoritarianism. My main argument in this talk may be summed up as follows. The promised election in Burma is nothing more than the rope that the regime has offered Aung San Suu Kyi-led opposition to hang itself. The crackdown of the politically defined Buddhist clergy in 2007, the callous behavior of General Than Shwe's leadership in the aftermath of the cyclone in 2008, and the Kafkaesque trial of Aung San Suu Kyi has drawn attention to the fundamental need for genuine reform in Burma. It is this desperate need for genuine, as opposed to cosmetic, changes against which the regime's promised election must be evaluated. The most crucial question to be asked here is the election promised for next year or this year the best opportunity for change in Burma, or a cynical attempt by the military to hold on to power? Currently, the Burmese opposition and Western supporters are divided on whether they should welcome, participate in, and support the election this year. This divide is generally between those who view themselves as pragmatists and those who adopt skepticism when it comes to the deceptive military leaderships and their broken promises. After all, the generals had already held one election 18 years ago, refused to honor the results, and all but destroyed the winning party led by Suu Kyi 20 years ago. The proponents of the election include local and foreign commercial interests, that is, foreign investors in gas and oil and natural resource sector, and small petty merchants and technocratic elite circles in Burma's urban centers, some international non-governmental organizations, or the humanitarian aid industry, the regime's Asian neighbors, the UN agencies, Western diplomatic circles, and local social activists. They have all been putting enormous pressure on the Burmese opposition to be, in quotes, pragmatic in dealing with the regime. In their view, the opposition and the population have only bad choices. They can either boycott and otherwise frustrate the regime's deeply flawed electoral process with the categorically anti-democratic constitution and prolong the deadlock, or they can participate in the regime's election, thereby risking to help consolidate another period of military rule. These advocates of pragmatism readily concede that the election will not lead to genuine political change, but it is, in quotes, the only game in town. They argue it will fundamentally alter the political landscape from total military control to a bicameral legislature with limited space for political parties and activities. This projected new landscape therefore offers opportunities which the pro-change forces should seize if the country is to move in the right direction, so they argue. In contrast, the critics, among whom are the bulk of Burmese dissidents, both in the country and in exile, and their solidarity organizations worldwide, say the vote will only serve the regime's twin purpose of legitimizing its already monopolistic control over Burmese politics, while responding minimally to the gentle nudges from key Asian supporters and external allies to embrace reconciliation and reform in form, if not in substance. The skeptics believe a regime that failed to honor the previous election results can only produce another sinister ploy to hang on to power in a new incarnation. Protected by powerful allies on the Security Council, such as China and Russia, and in effect given a blank check by India and ASEAN, the regime has long been thumbing its nose at the international community. Until the paranoid and feudal character of the military leadership changes, no official transitional plan offers any hope for reform. The event of the past 3 years, such as the regime's bloody crackdown of the Buddhist order, its criminal negligence towards 2 million cyclone victims, and the continuing political repression against ethnic majority and minority dissent, indicates how uninterested the military junta is in nation and state building. If the generals are serious about building a viable multi-ethnic state and creating prosperity out of Burma's richly endowed natural economy, they will be formulating a big tent vision for all Burmese citizens and organizations, most specifically the National League for Democracy and ethnic minority groups, which have offered the regime an olive branch and opportunities to work together. The generals would also be mending damaged foreign relations by learning to institutionalize basic human rights. Also, the generals would